AITA for refusing to give my brother my apartment so his fiancée will think our family appreciates culture? I, 29M, never thought I'd be posting here, but I'm sitting in my apartment right now, and I genuinely don't know if I'm the problem or if my family has finally lost their minds. Some background. I'm a sanitation engineer. Before you scroll past, no, I don't drive a garbage truck, though those workers are heroes who deserve way more respect. I design waste management systems, the infrastructure that handles sewage, industrial waste, and municipal solid waste for cities and large developments. I have a master's degree in environmental engineering and work as a junior partner at a mid-sized engineering firm. I've been involved in projects that have literally prevented disease outbreaks and groundwater contamination. My younger brother Marcus, 24M, is an art gallery curator at a small but trendy gallery downtown. Our mother, Diana, 54F, has always made it abundantly clear which career path she respects more. Growing up, I was the practical son while Marcus was the artistic one. When I graduated with honors and landed my first job, Mom's response was, "Well, at least you'll always have work. Someone has to deal with the garbage." When Marcus got his curator position at 22, she threw him a party and invited the entire extended family to celebrate how he surrounds himself with beauty every day. I've learned to live with this. I've built a good life. 3 years ago, I bought a modern loft apartment in a converted warehouse district. Exposed brick, huge windows, open floor plan. It's my sanctuary. I designed my own gray water recycling system for it. Yes, I'm a nerd. Marcus lives in a cramped studio apartment in what he calls an artistically vibrant neighborhood, which really means he can hear his neighbors' arguments through the walls. Here's where everything went sideways. Marcus got engaged 2 months ago to a woman named Priya, 26F. I've only met her twice, once at a family dinner and once when she stopped by the gallery while I was visiting Marcus. She seemed nice enough, intelligent, asked me some questions about my work that felt genuinely curious rather than politely dismissive. I liked her. Last weekend, Mom called a family meeting at her house. When I arrived, Marcus was already there, looking uncomfortable. Mom sat us down and announced that she had a wonderful solution to help Marcus's engagement. Her proposal: I should let Marcus and Priya live in my loft apartment, and I should move into Marcus's studio. I actually laughed. I thought she was joking. She wasn't. "Daniel," she said, using that patient, condescending tone she reserves specifically for me, "you work with garbage all day. You don't need a nice apartment." But Marcus and Priya are starting their life together, and Priya comes from a good family. She needs to see that our family appreciates culture and beauty. Your brother's current apartment doesn't reflect who he really is. I looked at Marcus. He wouldn't meet my eyes. "Mom," I said slowly, "I bought that apartment. With my money. That I earned from my job." "Which involves garbage," she said, as if that negated everything. I tried explaining, again, what I actually do. That my team's work on the Riverside Development Project prevented a potential cholera risk from an improperly planned drainage system. That the wastewater treatment upgrades I designed for Henderson County will serve 200,000 people for the next 30 years. That the reason she can flush her toilet and not worry about where it goes is because of engineers like me. "That's lovely, dear," she interrupted. "But we're talking about making a good impression on Priya's family. They're professors and doctors. What am I supposed to tell them? That my eldest son plays with sewage?" Marcus finally spoke up. "Mom, this isn't." "Marcus, let me handle this." She turned back to me. "It's temporary. Just until after the wedding. A year at most. Then you can have your apartment back. Think of it as your wedding gift to your brother." I stood up. "No." The silence was deafening. "Excuse me." Mom's voice could have frozen water. I said no. "I'm not giving away my home because you're embarrassed by what I do for a living. I've spent my entire adult life listening to you diminish my career, and I've let it slide because I love you and I wanted to keep the peace. But I'm not going to be homeless so you can pretend to Priya's family that we're something we're not. You won't be homeless, you'll be in Marcus's apartment. Which is a 400-square-foot studio with a hot plate for a kitchen and black mold in the bathroom that Marcus has been too broke to fix." I looked at my brother. "No offense." "None taken," he muttered. "Mom, I designed systems that protect people from exactly the kind of health hazards that exist in that building. You want me to live there so you can lie to some people you've never met about what our family values?" Mom stood up too. "I don't know where this selfishness comes from, Daniel. I really don't. I raised you better than this. You raised me to believe my work was shameful. That's all you raised me to believe." I left. I've ignored 7 calls from her since then and 3 from Marcus. Am I the asshole here? Part of me feels like I should have handled it more diplomatically, but I'm so tired. I've spent almost 30 years being told I work with garbage, while simultaneously being expected to fund family expenses because I make good money. Funny how the garbage job pays better than surrounding yourself with beauty. I've paid for Marcus's textbooks, Mom's car repairs, family vacations I couldn't even attend because of work deadlines. And now they want my home. Edit. I just want to clarify something because a few people have asked. Yes, my work literally saves lives. Last year alone, the systems I've worked on have served over 2 million people. The project I mentioned, the one that prevented the cholera risk, involved identifying a flaw in another firm's design that would have allowed raw sewage to contaminate a groundwater source used by a hospital and 3 schools. I caught it, redesigned the drainage system, and nobody ever got sick. My mother's response when I tried to tell her about it, "That's nice, honey. Did you hear Marcus was featured in the art section of the local paper?" I'm not saying I need constant validation, but it would be nice to not be treated like I roll around in landfills for a living. Update 1. Things got worse before they got better. Posted 2 weeks later. I didn't expect my last post to get so much attention. Thank you to everyone who validated that I'm not crazy. Reading your comments made me realize how normalized this treatment had become for me. A few days after my original post, I was at work, clearly distracted, when my firm partner, Miriam Chen, pulled me into her office. Miriam has been my mentor since I started at the firm. She's in her late 50s, built her career when women in engineering were even rarer than they are now, and she doesn't tolerate nonsense from anyone. "You've been off your game all week," she said, closing the door. "Talk to me." I didn't intend to tell her everything. I started with family stuff, but Miriam has this way of waiting silently until you fill the space, and somehow I ended up telling her the whole story. The apartment, the garbage comments, the years of being treated as lesser. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. "Daniel," she finally said, "do you know why I hired you? Because I had good grades and interviewed well? Because when you talked about wastewater treatment in your interview, you talked about it like it was art. You understood that what we do is foundational to civilization. The Romans were great not because of their sculptures, but because of their sewers." She leaned forward. "But more importantly, I hired you because you see people. You design systems that serve populations most engineers treat as statistics. That's rare." I didn't know what to say. "What you're describing with your mother," she continued, "is a pattern I've seen before. My sister lived through something similar with our parents. The golden child, the scapegoat, the conditional love. She struggled with it for years until she found help." Miriam wrote something on a piece of paper and handed it to me. It was the name and number of a support group for adult children of narcissistic parents. "You don't have to go," she said. "But you might find you're not as alone as you think." I almost threw the paper away 3 times before I finally went to the meeting the following Tuesday. The group meets in a community center, about 15 people, all ages, all backgrounds. A woman named Darlene facilitates. I sat in the back and listened for most of the first session, but what I heard shook me. These people had stories that paralleled mine in ways I hadn't expected. There was a nurse whose mother always introduced her as my daughter who couldn't get into medical school. A software developer whose parents still called him the family's little computer geek, while praising his brother the real estate agent for having a real career. A teacher whose mother had literally told her that she wasted her intelligence by not becoming a lawyer. The pattern was identical. One child who could do no wrong, one who could do no right, and a constant undercurrent of emotional manipulation disguised as family concern. When I finally spoke, about the apartment demand, about years of garbage comments, I saw nods of recognition around the room. "The request itself isn't the issue," Darlene explained afterward. "The issue is the underlying belief system, that your worth as a person is contingent on how well you fit their image of success. And when you fail to meet that image, you become a resource to be exploited for the benefit of the child who does." That hit hard. Over the next few weeks, I started implementing what the group called Gray Rock Technique with Mom, keeping communication brief, factual, and emotionally neutral. When she called, I answered but kept conversations short. When she brought up the apartment, I simply said, "That's not happening," and changed the subject. When she tried guilt, I ended the call. It was exhausting. It also felt like reclaiming something I hadn't known I'd lost. Marcus called me about a week into this. I almost didn't answer. "I need to talk to you," he said. "Please." We met at a coffee shop halfway between our apartments. He looked tired, genuinely tired, not the artistic, tortured curator, tired he sometimes affected. "I didn't ask Mom to do that," he said immediately. "The apartment thing. I didn't know she was going to propose that until we were all sitting there. But you didn't stop her either. He flinched. No, I didn't. And I'm sorry for that. He ran his hands through his hair. I've spent my whole life being the one she approves of, and I know how that sounds, but it's not as comfortable as you might think. There's always the fear that I'll do something wrong and end up like me. That's not what He stopped. Yeah, okay, like you. I've been terrified my whole life of being the disappointment, and instead of questioning why she even had a disappointment category, I just tried to stay out of it. While I was in it. While you were in it. He met my eyes. I'm not asking you to forgive me. I'm telling you that I see it now, or I'm starting to, and I don't want to be that person anymore. Priya's been asking questions about our family, about why Mom talks about you the way she does, and I don't have good answers. Because there aren't any. I didn't say anything for a long moment. What does Priya do for a living? I asked. She's an environmental scientist. She works on. He stopped, and I watched the realization dawn on his face. Oh. Yeah. Oh. She's going to find out about this whole thing, isn't she? I imagine she will. He put his head in his hands. Mom has no idea what Priya actually does. She just heard scientist and professor parents and filled in the blanks. Sounds like Mom. Update 2. The truth comes out. Posted 3 weeks later. I honestly wasn't sure what would happen with Marcus after our coffee shop conversation. I expected him to slip back into old patterns. That's usually how it goes when you're the favored child and the system is working in your favor. I was wrong. 2 weeks ago, Priya called me directly. I was at work, reviewing drainage plans, when my phone buzzed with an unknown number. Daniel. This is Priya, Marcus's fiancée. Do you have a few minutes? I stepped outside. Sure. Is everything okay? I'm going to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me. Her voice was steady but serious. Marcus has been acting strange lately, and last night he finally told me about what your mother asked you to do with the apartment. He also told me about how she's talked about your work for years. I need to know if what he said is accurate. I gave her an honest summary, the garbage comments, the favoritism, the pattern of diminishing my work while celebrating Marcus's. The line was quiet for several seconds. Daniel, Priya finally said, I'm an environmental scientist. I study water systems and contamination remediation. Do you understand what that means in the context of this conversation? I actually laughed, a sharp, relieved sound. I think I do. My entire career exists because of what people like you build. The infrastructure that makes clean water possible, that handles waste safely, that prevents disease, that's foundational to everything else. Everything. Her voice had an edge now. The idea that anyone would call that working with garbage as an insult is not just wrong, it's genuinely shocking to me. I study cholera outbreaks in developing nations where sanitation infrastructure has failed. Do you know what those outbreaks look like? I do, actually. I've done consulting work for an international development organization. Then you know that what you do isn't just important, it's essential. Without sanitation engineers, there are no art galleries. There's no civilization to curate. She took a breath. I'm furious, Daniel. Not at you. I'm furious that this is the family Marcus comes from and that nobody has ever pushed back on it. We were raised in it, I said. It's hard to see clearly from inside. Well, I'm not inside. And I'm seeing clearly. Another pause. I told Marcus this morning that I won't marry him until he gets professional help to understand why he's participated in this dynamic. I love him, but I'm not marrying someone who thinks it's acceptable to let his mother treat his brother like a second-class citizen. I wasn't sure what to say. You don't have to say anything, Priya said, reading my silence. I'm not doing this for gratitude. I'm doing it because it's right, and because I won't build a life with someone who hasn't examined their values. But I thought you should know that you're not alone and that what's been done to you isn't normal or acceptable. Update 3. 3 months later. Posted today. I wasn't sure if I'd ever write another update, but so much has changed that I felt I owed it to everyone who's been following along. Let me start with Marcus. He took Priya's ultimatum seriously, not begrudgingly, but genuinely. He started seeing a therapist who specializes in family systems, specifically in the dynamics created by narcissistic parenting. The sessions have been hard for him. He called me once, about a month in, his voice ragged. I'm so sorry, he said. I'm so sorry, Dan. I didn't understand. I thought I was just the kid who got lucky, who happened to fit what Mom wanted. I didn't understand that it was a system, that there always has to be someone on the outside for the person on the inside to feel special. That's how it works, I said. The scapegoat and the golden child aren't actually different to her. We're both objects. You just got assigned a different role. My therapist said the same thing. He laughed bitterly. She said that my entire sense of self-worth has been built on a foundation of being not Daniel. That I've never had to figure out who I actually am because I could always define myself by being the one who wasn't being criticized. That sounds brutal. It is. It's also true. He paused. I'm starting to see my job differently too. I used to think curation was about surrounding myself with beauty, like Mom always said. Now I'm realizing I never asked what beauty was for. Why does it matter? What does it serve? I didn't have an answer for him. That was his question to figure out. Mom hasn't taken any of this well. When Marcus told her he was in therapy and why, she initially tried guilt. You're letting strangers analyze our family. After everything I've done for you. When that didn't work, she tried triangulation, calling our aunt, our grandmother, family friends, to build a coalition against Marcus's dramatic overreaction and my influence. She painted herself as the victim of ungrateful children. But here's the thing about family systems. When you start pulling at threads, other people start noticing the patterns too. My aunt, Mom's sister, called me last month. I owe you an apology, she said without preamble. I've watched Diana do this to you for years, and I told myself it was just how she was, that you seemed fine, that it wasn't my place. I was wrong. It was my place, and I should have said something. Why didn't you? Because she did the same thing to me when we were kids. I was the practical one. She was the creative one. And I was so relieved when you came along and took that role in her life that I let it happen. Her voice cracked. I'm sorry, Daniel. Truly. Other relatives have reached out too, some to apologize, some to defend Mom, some just to gossip. I've learned to filter. The support group taught me that. Priya and Marcus got married 3 weeks ago. It was a small ceremony, 30 people in a botanical garden, followed by dinner at a farm-to-table restaurant. Nothing like the lavish event Mom had envisioned. Mom wasn't there. Marcus told her she was welcome to attend if she could commit to not making comments about my career or their relationship choices. She couldn't commit. She chose not to come. I was Marcus's best man. During the reception, Marcus stood to give a toast. I expected the usual, how he met Priya, how much he loved her. Instead, he looked at me. My brother Daniel is a sanitation engineer, he said, and the room got very quiet. For most of my life, I thought that meant he had a job dealing with garbage. That's what I was taught. That's what I let myself believe because it was easier than questioning where that belief came from. He took a breath. Priya is an environmental scientist. When I told her about our family's attitude toward Daniel's work, she was horrified, not embarrassed or awkward, but genuinely, deeply horrified. She explained to me what sanitation engineering actually means. She showed me photos from her fieldwork in regions without proper waste infrastructure, where children die from diseases that haven't existed in wealthy countries for generations, where a single failed system can decimate a population. He looked at Priya, then back at me. I've spent 3 months in therapy learning to understand why I accepted a worldview that valued aesthetics over infrastructure, that prioritized the beautiful over the essential. I've learned that my entire sense of self was built on standing next to someone who was being diminished. And I've had to reckon with the fact that I not only benefited from Daniel's mistreatment, I participated in it. The room was absolutely silent. Daniel, I know this doesn't undo anything. But I want you to know that I see you now. I see your work. I see what it means. And I'm ashamed that it took me this long. He raised his glass. To my brother, who keeps civilization running while the rest of us take it for granted. I love you. I'm sorry. And I'm grateful, not just for you, but for the millions of people who are alive and healthy because of what you do. I didn't trust myself to speak. I just nodded and raised my glass. One more thing. Marcus has started a new exhibition at his gallery. It opens next month. The theme is Invisible Infrastructure, the systems that sustain us. He called me last week to consult on it. I'm featuring environmental engineering, he explained. Wastewater treatment plants, water filtration systems, waste management logistics. The aesthetics of function. I've been researching the design principles, and Dan, it's beautiful. The mathematics, the problem-solving, the sheer elegance of making something disgusting safe. How did no one ever show me this before? No one thought to look. I'm looking now. He paused. Will you help me? I want to get this right. I've been helping him for the past 2 weeks, explaining design principles, walking him through system schematics, introducing him to colleagues who can speak to different aspects of the field. He's genuinely fascinated. Last weekend, we stood in the gallery together, looking at the preliminary layout. Large format photographs of treatment facilities. Cross-section diagrams of sewer systems. A video installation showing the journey of water from source to tap to drain to treatment and back. Beauty means nothing without sanitation, Marcus said quietly. You can't have art galleries without sewers. The Romans understood that. Yeah. He looked at me. Mom never will. Probably not. I'm okay with that. For the first time in my life, I'm genuinely okay with it. He smiled slightly. I know who I am now. I'm not the kid who wasn't you. I'm Marcus, the curator who's finally learning that function and beauty aren't opposites. I wish I could say I've fully healed from 30 years of being told my work is worthless. I haven't. I still flinch sometimes when people ask what I do, bracing for dismissal. I still dream about my mother's voice, the particular tone she uses when she says, garbage. But I'm in therapy now too. I'm still going to the support group. I'm learning to separate my worth from her opinion. And I still have my apartment, the loft with exposed brick and huge windows, with my handcrafted gray water recycling system that visitors always ask about. I sit by those windows in the evenings sometimes, looking out at the city, and I think about all the systems running beneath it. The pipes and conduits and treatment plants, the invisible infrastructure that makes everything else possible. Someone has to design those systems. Someone has to care about them. I care about them. And I'm finally learning that caring about them, about the garbage nobody wants to see, is nothing to be ashamed of. Edit. Thank you all so much for the support. For anyone dealing with similar family dynamics, here's what I've learned. You are not your family's opinion of you. Your worth isn't determined by whether your parents understand your work or approve of your choices. Find your people, mentors, support groups, friends, partners who see you clearly. The family you're born into isn't the only family you'll ever have. And to all my fellow sanitation engineers, water treatment specialists, waste management professionals, and everyone else who keeps civilization running in invisible ways, I see you. Your work matters. It matters more than most people will ever understand. Stay safe out there.